Hi, thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. My name is Andrea Klim, and I am an astrological counselor and a core shamanic practitioner from the local Manchester Derry area. And I want to talk with you today about part 2 of a show that I started last week talking about Uranus Square Pluto, the 7 occurrences that occurs between 2012 and 2015. And today being May 28th, as I am recording this show, 8 days ago on May 20th, we had the 3rd occurrence of this historical planetary square. And as you heard me talk about on last week's show, these squares are extremely important to our evolution and also to our future. What is happening now is incredible, unusual, different awakenings and change and bizarre occurrences of things that we would have never even dreamed of being brought to our attention, both worldwide and personally, on a personal level. And when you have a square between two powerhouse planets such as Uranus and Pluto, they tend to last a very long time, which is what you're seeing, which is almost a 4-year period of time that this square is taking place and the influences are affecting us. So that square brings about challenges, it brings about growth, it brings about scientific discoveries, it brings about a tumultuous period of time, because Pluto is one incredibly powerful planet to experience its energy, and Pluto brings about incredible, almost devastating changes on the surface, because what needs to rise up is the structures of new structures. And so what it does is it's sort of like a fire. When a fire burns something or a structure to the ground, it needs to be rebuilt. So that is what is happening with Pluto as it transits through the constellation of Capricorn. Capricorn being ruling over our government, ruling over our large corporations, ruling over the workforce and, the status elements of our makeup. So today I do just I'm going to go further into what I spoke about last week. And so it's a good idea if you could watch last week's show and then follow up by, this show. You're going to have a lot of information and some really important dates, which is 7 different dates that started back in It started back in June of 2012. So first thing I want to do is talk about these occurrences with a focus on the 3rd occurrence, which occurred last week on Monday, May 20th. And the talk about the association that the spiritual community, the astrologers, a community of astrologers, and the metaphysical community are all talking about these 7 occurrences, these 7 days of this Uranus square Pluto, and that there is a strong connection, association with the 7 major energy points of the human body. And those are, we call them in the healing world, the 7 chakras of the human body, or the 7 energy points or energy centers. So I want to show you that picture right now on the screen. This is a picture of the dates associated with those 7 Uranus square Pluto time periods, and we are, as you can see, the 3rd one is the connection with the solar plexus, which was May 20th of last week. So between May 20th and November 1st is a time period where our focus is going to be on our power center, which is the 3rd chakra. Just sort of a recap, we began this whole influence of change all began with Uranus first square to Pluto, which occurred on June 23rd of 2012, which was bringing an opening, awakening, and changes to our root chakra, which is our chakra that is connected with our survival instincts. So between June 23rd and September 19th, which was the second square of the Uranus-Pluto combination, September 19th of 2012 was the second time these two planets came together at the same exact degrees and squared each other. There was a strong effect at that time on the sacral chakra, which has to do with our creativity, our sexuality. And between September 19th and May 20th, which is what just occurred last week, there's a strong influence to the solar plexus, which is our power center, where we gain our power from, where our influence of power comes from. And what I'm going to be talking about today during today's show is the period of time between May 20th and November 1st, which is beginning, here we have this influence of change and sudden, unusual, erratic type of occurrences that'll be happening both to our Earth and to the structure of our Earth, creating great challenges to rebuild. But during this process, there's great change that is taking place. There's great awakenings. There's great enlightenment. There's incredible aha moments that'll be occurring. But I'm going to really focus on the power center, which is the solar plexus, which is really the what is going to be under the microscope at this time. And I just go over these last 4 dates. November 1st through April 21st of 2014, as you can see on the chart on the screen, is going to be the time where the heart chakra, which is our component of love and how we express love, how we receive love, this will be under the microscope for big changes to occur in this energy center. And then from April 21st to December 14th of 2014, the focus will be on the throat chakra, which is the place from which we express ourselves, from which we project our voice. And that would be a time of great change to that particular area of the body of the human form. And then from December 14th, which is the 6th square of Uranus to Pluto, December 14th of 2014, the focus will be on the third eye, or the way we perceive things, our perception. And from December 14th through March 17th, the focus will be on that third eye. And then March 17th is the very final, the last square of Uranus to Pluto, and the focus of change will be on the crown chakra, which is the spirituality or the spiritualism of us as human beings. And you can see this on the human form on the picture, starting with the bottom root chakra with the first, the orange being the sacral, the yellow being the solar plexus, the green being the heart, the blue being the throat, the dark blue being the third eye, and the purple or the pink being the crown chakra. So I'm going to be talking a lot today, though, about the solar plexus and the influence of that energy. But I want to show you first, before we go there, I have a picture of putting an astrology chart under a microscope, which is this picture of the second picture in my collection here of Pluto squaring the May 20th. Yes, that's the picture right there. And as you can see, if you look to the right, bottom right of the screen, you'll see a green lightning bolt arrow pointing to the planet Uranus. And that planet is at 11 degrees of Aries. And I'd like you to follow there's a magenta colored line, which you see all kinds of arrows pointing to, that come out through more of, that we call that the square. That's the aspect, the 90-degree angle, which forms the square exactly to, if you follow that magenta line with the square on it, up to Pluto, which is, you see the yellow arrow pointing down to the point where it meets Pluto. And Pluto looks, there's a blue arrow pointing up on the left side of your screen to the planet Pluto with the symbol for Pluto at 11 degrees Capricorn. This is what it looks like in an astrology chart, to see this angle of 90 degrees, which is a very, in interpreting the symbolic influence or energy of this square, this is what we would be looking at, and this is what it looks like in a chart. And this was exactly 11 degrees in Capricorn in 14 minutes, squaring Uranus at 11 degrees of Aries and 14 minutes. And this occurred, again, May 20th, the third occurrence of this Pluto square Uranus. And I have another picture of what this looks like also, just to kind of get in your mind's eye. And this is a diagram of the big planet that you see to the right, the blue, that's Uranus. And the square, you can see, is a 90-degree angle to the smaller planet, which is at the top of the chart of the picture there. That's Pluto. So the influence to us here on Earth is a square. A square indicates that this would be a period of time where there would be great growth to all who are affected by this energy, which is us here on Earth and our solar system. Uranus bringing about bizarre, unusual, lightning bolt, sudden type of awakenings and realizations. And the challenge would be for us to change things structurally on the surface so that we can bring about new forms of new structures. Pluto, though, is typically death, so that death, or we use that word to indicate great changes in many, many ways. And if you have these degrees, any planets in your chart at 11 degrees of any planet around 11 degrees, you are going to be feeling the influence of these two planets in your life. And it will ask you to wake up to what your guidance wants you to change in your life, what it wants you to understand and figure out so that you can change it and grow during this time. And the square can be an indication of great challenges in your life if you're not able to somehow align with this period of time that wants you to change those old cycles, change those old patterns, and learn new skills, learn new ways to manage things. And I am going to talk about, as we get a little further on in the show, actually, I probably should talk about it right now, what happened on May 20th. And I actually have a chart of that I'm going to put on the screen to show you. And this chart is actually the U.S. birth chart, astrology birth chart, showing planetary influences at exactly the time of the tornado occurring on May 20th in Moore, Oklahoma, which was it touched down at 2:45 p.m. And I want to show you, if you look over to the left where there's a green arrow pointing down to the planet, the symbol for Pluto, which is over to the left side of the chart, and the Uranus is over to the right side on the bottom, where there's a green arrow pointing at it. So we are at this time going through incredible structural changes, a lot of devastating things, a lot of very hard things, a lot of very powerful things are happening to the structure of our country, both government and structurally to our land. We're having a strong effect on us as a whole. And the Uranus is down in the area of the chart which we would talk about our land, our foundations, our families, our soul families, the tribes that we come from, the groups that we come from. And we see Uranus in that particular area in reference to the United States. So we are having some incredible challenges here on our U.S. soil. And so there is this, to our real estate, to our homes, to our families. Things are changing over the course of these next 3, almost 4 years, with these two planets forming these keep coming back to to wake us up to that we need to change things in order to survive. So I am going to talk a little bit more about what else is happening with this that happened in this chart. If we could put that chart up one more time on the screen of the tornado, because at the same time that we see this on May 20th, we also saw that Mars in this chart was exactly trining Neptune, which did bring up that there would be some level of suffering due to our land, and that there would be children involved, and that there would be it would take a long time on a earthly level to recreate the devastation of even there would be discoveries of some unknown things, and ultimately whatever happened here would bring about some very positive results. Now, what else that we see that's occurring on this at the time of this tornado on May 20th, is we see that Uranus is almost exactly opposite Saturn, which is at the top of the chart where you see the yellow arrow pointing down. Saturn, which is our rules area of our status here in the United States, our government, and the work that we are doing as a whole to, be peacemakers. And so we see Uranus opposite Saturn, which means that Saturn does tie in the part of the chart here, which has to do with our financial systems, our money systems. And that opposition is forcing us to do what we can about what we can. It is forcing us to take a good look at our financial systems. It is forcing us to wake up to the realization of the things that we can change, the things that we can do something about, and the things that we can't. Oppositions are typically very diverse. It's the universe's way of forcing us to take a look at what we need to work on, because it's associated with Saturn here. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that on the outside rim, to the left top side of this chart, you see a blue arrow that is pointing to Saturn at 6 degrees of Scorpio, which is moving through an area of this chart which is about our communities and the groups of people and the masses. And Saturn is forming an exact square in this chart to the south node of the moon, which is down on the bottom left. It looks like a horseshoe. It has a blue arrow pointing up to it. And it's also forming a square to the north node of the moon, which is up in the 8th house, which would mean that there would be, on a structural level, that due to the challenges that we're facing, we're being forced to look at our communities and our financial status and the finances of those communities. And it would be a real challenge to regenerate, to rebuild. But first, we would have to identify the things that are not working so that we can do a better job at helping people through times of transition. And this did promise that this would be a hard one, and it would be very difficult. And the other thing that I wanted to point out about this chart is that the moon at the very top of the chart, like if you had like 12 o'clock on a clock on the wall, you see the crescent for the moon at 2 degrees of Libra up there, and that is forming a square to Venus in this chart, which means that there's a lot of challenging energy that is taking place at this time on May 20th, and that square to Venus was really bringing into focus again that it would be very hard to protect our children. It would be very hard to protect, the financial piece of this would be a real challenge, the devastation. So, but what is really nice about this chart is that Mars down in the bottom right-hand corner, which is trining Neptune, which means that there's an open door to resolve things, and it would really force people to methodically work together to recreate, and that would be a great gift that came out of this devastation that occurred on this day. So I wanted to point out these particular aspects of this chart before we moved forward. And so moving on now to talk more about for all of us, the focus from now until November 1st, which will be on our personal power centers, which is our solar plexus. Naturally, universe does dictate that that this is an area of the earth and for all of us living beings that is being awakened. Imagine stirring a pot and mixing everything well together. But before that happens, that area would have to be opened up. So it's very similar to taking a journey where you are starting a task or a job that you have to identify all the working components and then put them together and stir it up. So we are being awakened to the utmost focus for a restructuring of our earth. Our power sources on earth are going to be put under the microscope during this time. Our energy centers, how we produce power, how we create energy. For us individually, our power centers, or the center of our power, where do we get our power from? Is our power one that we think that we have whole and that it doesn't affect others? It really does. It's really important for us to take a good look at the source of our power and realize some things about ourselves which are in need of restructuring. Sort of like a light bulb, you're going to experience light bulb moments that show you the areas of power that in your life that will be put under the microscope. And I would encourage you to take it slow, to have patience. Squares dictate patience. Being that this is a cardinal square, it's very important that we be aware of our actions and how we relate and how we express our power. It is, the forms of power that we have and the forms of power of around us are going to go through a change. And whatever comes out of this is going to be best for all. And it's very important that we take a good look at and realize that the decisions and actions that we take during this time will create the foundations for the future. So here's some keys. Use X-ray insight before making drastic changes when you don't know what else to do. Expect to experience events that'll bring you into a shocking awareness of your ability to survive. You can look into programs that provide insight or education, such as community support groups or psychology or astrology, and other programs that offer understanding and deeper ways how to manage these times of change. You might look into radical, cutting-edge therapies. You may find yourself feeling a sudden and consuming passion for healing arts. Remember that this is a time period that will be about changing old patterns. First, those old patterns being brought up to be broken and changed. And I just want to let you know that Uranus is that planet that is one of the most unpredictable of all. We never know how it's going to play out. One thing we do know is that it's waking us up, the self. Aries is the self. Aries is about our assertiveness. Aries is about our movement. So we're being asked to take a look at that Aries side of us all, which is very much about the human being and the human form. You can expect during this time that you're going to experience complete and unavoidable role reversals. We're seeing that happen a lot in the human family, that the husband is often ending up taking the role of the wife, and the wife takes the role of the man in that relationship. And again, talking about the chakras, imagine what you saw there in that picture, the changes that we're experiencing as humans, as that during those periods of time, sort of like a line being drawn to each one, connecting us all together. And I do want to tell you a little bit more about the solar plexus, and it's interesting because solar meaning the sun, soul meaning the soul. This is a place that is going to be under scrutiny for change, and very, very important. If you want to really tap into this energy, you can meditate or pray or journey, but anything that gives you a focus on this particular area of your body, and bringing light to it and opening it up and working with this particular area or power center to bring about change is going to be extremely helpful. And of course you want to do that. Relate to your center for power. It is the doorway into the center of your being. All forms of personal power will be put under the microscope for examination, identification, regeneration. We're working to understand the way we express our power, the way we understand power, how we utilize it, remembering that we're all one very important light of the whole during this time of change. And what we do, the decisions we make, will be very important toward our future. As you heard me talk about during the show, wrong use. You've probably heard me say this before. Wrong use of power creates greed and decline of civilization. So the key between May 20th and November 1st is to move the energy of the solar plexus chakra up into the heart chakra and operate from there, utilizing the solar plexus for healthy and right use of personal power. So this then leads to an illuminated use of the third eye. And imagine, that chart as we move on up through and the influence there. So here's some advice. This is a pivotal time in our history. May 20th through November 1st is a pivotal time, and it looks like we're pretty much at the end of the show. So I want to leave you with some advice of be patient, do your best to align with this time of change, and I wish you all the very best, and I hope that this information has been of a great value to you for your life moving ahead. Take good care, and thanks for watching Turn to the Stars. I'll see you next week.